Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self. Good morning, badass.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I am good. I'm recovering from a little procedure from yesterday.
Yes, I know. And so you seem like you're doing pretty amazing for having a procedure.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm in a little bit of pain, but otherwise I'm good. So
do you want to share what it is you did?
Yes, yeah. So I have, the audience doesn't know, I think maybe I mentioned it, but I have destroyed my left foot several times over the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I in 2010, after a very significant injury, I had what is called a spinal cord stimulator implanted in my body. So it's for those of you that know, like an external TENS unit that you might use with PT or OT, it's like that, but it's implanted inside my body. And what it does is it sends waves to my nerves that basically make it tingle and distract me from the pain. So because of that, I have a battery in my butt, like upper butt. So right now I have a quite significant pain in my ass,
literally,
because they had to cut the old battery out and put a new in it. So that's what happened yesterday.
And this has been something in the works. Like you have tried to get this taken care of multiple times, and finally.
Yes. Yeah. And I started this process 2 years ago, had to find the right doctors. The thing is one of the reasons is I did this originally about 4 hours north when I lived somewhere else. Also, the device, as it is in the world of all corporations, right? The device was bought by another firm or by another corporation. So I had to kind of navigate that. And of course, no one supports the device really that I had anymore. So there was lots to figure out. Then when I finally found the right place, it was rescheduled 3 times for really ridiculous reasons. So even yesterday in the pre-op, they were like, wow, you signed consent for this in July of last year. And I was like, So very happy to just have it over with, because I really depend on this thing. Like since it was implanted, I have not gone a day without using it.
Yeah.
And the very few times that I hadn't charged it and had to go any amount of time without it, I was just miserable. So this thing has been giving me errors for the last 4 years. And I needed to it was still working. There was just this error light that I didn't have for the first 10 years that I had it. So I was like, is this thing just going to stop working and I'm going to be up Schitt's Creek,
Yeah.
So that's why I've been trying to get this in the works. So I'm very glad now to have a brand new modern situation with this stimulator. So
yeah, I mean, when you told me that you had basically a stimulator that allows you to not deal with certain pain within your body, and it was implanted in your butt, I was like, what?
I know, right? It's so interesting. And to get it, you have to have one of the interesting things I found is you have to have a full-on psych evaluation, because there are people who are like all in, they want it, but they then end up having like maybe some underlying mental health things, and then they get it and then they go crazy. They felt like they had like a alien in their body or something. So I had to get a full psych eval to even get the thing, to make sure that I was going to tolerate it all. It's just been such an interesting journey, but
that's crazy.
Yes.
So we have lots of people saying hello this morning. So I'm also curious, has anybody ever heard anybody else with this device? I seriously, I have never heard of this before, and so I'm just curious. So Myra says, "Good morning, ladies. Happy Friday."
Good
And
morning,
Bruce
Myra.
said, "Let's do this." And he's also, apparently Lance. Hey, Lance. So Lance is on.
Hey.
Lance, we don't see any of your comments. So again, if you are commenting and we are not pulling up your comment, I am sorry. We're not seeing it on the screen. And so just know that we're not ignoring you. So Dodie, she said morning. I love that photo, Dodie.
I know, Dodie. It's really pretty. I was going to say that the other day too.
Yeah. And Kim said, good morning to my favorite, beautiful, badass ladies. Kate, you are showing us your bad self today for sure.
I love it.
And then Tanya is joining us. So good morning. And she said, good morning, badass ladies. And so welcome. And then I have to pull this up. Bruce said,
yes.
Where's Kate on the left?
I thought the same exact thing, Bruce. When we came on screen, I was like, oh, this is different. But we're usually switched, or you're on the we're usually flipped.
Well, I'm curious. So in bed, I sleep on the left side. My husband, when we got together, he was like, all right, I gotta get the right side, because apparently in his previous relationship, he was like, I was forced to sleep on the left and I don't want to sleep on the left. I'm like, I don't care. So which side do you sleep on?
I sleep on the right. When you're facing the bed, and it is always that way. We are both very particular about that. So when we go into hotels or anything, we like go to our sides, like this is where we sleep. And
okay, so you sleep on my side because he's on the right if you're laying down.
Oh yeah. So I sleep on the left if we're lying down. Okay. And that does work out perfectly, because over the years and still to this day, I often have to elevate my left leg at night. Oh, yeah. And so it's easier to elevate it if it's on the outside, if I'm on my, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we bring on Brendaliz to the show, I just wanted to announce that I'm leaving after this. So I'm off for today.
Right, and you're out of here.
I am. I'm heading back to Missouri, which is where I'm originally from. And I am about to celebrate. It's a surprise. And so she's not on Facebook or anything, so she wouldn't know. But my great aunt, so my daughter's great aunt, is going to turn 100 years old, and we are going back to go celebrate. And she only thinks like a couple family members are coming, but we have like 40 plus people that are going to be there to help celebrate her. So I'm super excited. We're going to have 5 generations represented. So that's just crazy.
It's amazing. I love it when families can do that and have pictures of all of the people. And I've seen a picture of your aunt before, and she's just beautiful at her, what I saw her at 99. So, and I really love the elderly population. I always have, but so I try to collect conversations with like 100-year-olds. So it's a joke around our house, because Mama Jenna likes to collect animals and babies, and I like to collect old people. But I really get a kick out of these conversations, and when you really dig in, it's so interesting. There's so much perspective that they kind of share.
Yeah. Well, what I would like to do is bring Brendaliz Acosta on. Yes. And so let's do a little bit of an introduction to her. So let me get things moved around, and let me move her there and do this. And so welcome, Brendaliz. So you're just sitting in the backstage, just observing us. And so welcome to the show. And so I'd like to do a little bit of an introduction to her. So we have Brendaliz Acosta joining us. And so after working 23 years in the corporate world, you are now the proud founder of your own company, and you now have stepped into entrepreneurship to really help guide corporate women to feel worth of their success, enhancing their EQ, and embracing their path to freedom and purpose. So welcome to the show. We're excited to have you today.
I'm really glad I'm here. I remember when you guys reached out to me for the first time, I'm like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm doing this.
That's
Yeah, thank
awesome.
you.
Well, I remember, so it was Lance that actually, and Lance, I'm hoping that, you get on off that Android phone or something, and then get on something else so I could see your comments, because I know you're the person that introduced us. So I want to see his comments today. And so
Mhm.
thank you, Lance, for introducing us. But he had you, and I was like, hey, is this someone I should know? And he's like, yeah, let me connect you. So I'm super excited to talk to you today.
Me too. I'm really excited to be here with the both of you, and I'm glad that Lance had the the idea of introducing us. I think it's great, and he's an amazing human being. I adore him, and he knows
Yes.
that. So I'm happy I'm here, and I'm glad I'm here to share my journey, because at the end of the day, that's all we can do to help people who might be out there and just need that slight motivation to take that next step. Yep, that's why
Right.
we're here.
Exactly.
Aw.
Yep.
I love it. I love everything. Since we talked to you, you've been coming on the show, and I've just been so excited when I see your little face in the comments. I'm like, oh, I can't wait till she's on with us again. Because, you know, when we have interviews, we usually set up like a little time to connect prior, right? Just to get to know each other, make sure it feels like a fit. And I'll tell you, half the time those conversations feel way too brief, where I'm like, I could talk to this person for much longer, but we got to save it. We got to save it for the show. We can't, we can't like learn it all. We got to do some of it live. So I'm super excited to hear more of your story today.
I remember you guys were asking me questions, and I'm like pouring my heart out, and I'm like, where did that come from? It's just you guys made me feel so comfortable at
Aw.
being able to just talk about my challenges and what has brought me to be where I am today. So yeah, I appreciate both of you significantly.
Yeah.
Can't
Well,
wait to
let's
jump
jump
in.
into it. And so how we like to start things off is really just understanding a little bit more about people's childhood. And so I know that you actually went through some pretty significant things growing up. And that really is a lot of times the things that sort of set the stage in how it is that we could potentially grow in life. And so, can you tell us a little bit about that younger version of Brendaliz?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm a Puerto Rican. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I lived there until my 30s. Um, and when I was growing up, I was raised and born on the east. Oh no, hold on the west side of the island. I don't can't get my west and east right today. On the west side of the island, and I was the second out of four sisters that grew up together.
Okay.
So growing up, I was always like the middle child. um
Mhm.
and I think when I was around 7 or 8, I started to develop certain symptoms where, like, my parents would go to the shopping mall, and like I could walk a little bit, and then I had to stay in the bench, and everybody would go shopping, and then I would just be sitting in the bench with another sister because I couldn't walk the whole mall.
Right.
And I started to have symptoms where my feet would get swollen, and then somehow I started to lose flexibility through the years. And it wasn't until I was probably around, I think it was sixth to seventh grade, where I finally, one night I woke up and my left leg was completely swollen, and it was like in fever. Not my body, but my leg was in fever.
Mm.
It was so hot. Like, it was very weird. And I remember holding myself all the night with the pain because I didn't want to wake up my parents. My father would wake up every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I would then, as soon as I heard the alarm, I went directly to the bedroom. We've been going through a lot of doctors because of all the symptoms I was showing, the lack of flexibility. I was walking on my tippy toes.
Mhm.
I couldn't extend my arm further than this. Like, I've lost a lot of movement. But it wasn't until that event where one of the doctors told my father, this is an autoimmune disorder. We just don't know. And in Puerto Rico, there was no doctor, the pediatrician in that area. So my father started to look for options, and they decided to bring me to the States. And right before they were going to bring me to the States, they received a call that there was a new pediatrician in Puerto Rico that was actually focused rheumatoid pediatrician, and she was focused on these types of disorders.
Yeah.
So they, like, I would say probably 5-6 days before going on the trip, we go to her office. The first thing she said to my parents was, she's gonna have to deal with this for the rest of her life. And yeah, and I
Huge
remember
thing to
looking at
hear.
her. I know, like, it's so much love, right? And I remember looking at her and saying to her, that's not gonna be me. I'm gonna heal, and you're gonna heal me. And I remember her looking at my parents and like some sort of comments like you guys have to manage her expectations. And she was actually telling them, we can control the symptoms, it's not gonna go away, but with age, as soon as she gets into her 40s, she can actually develop also lupus. So she was gonna end up having 2 autoimmune disorders at the same time. Like, that's what science have proven so far, that most of the cases later in their life, they develop lupus. And I'm like looking at her thinking, no, this is not true. And fast forward, they did all the diagnosis. Just by her looking at me, she knew exactly what I had. And immediately, I would say 2 days after, I was in medication, and I started to feel like I could actually start to move. I could actually do things that I couldn't do before within a week time frame. It was like crazy, regardless of the fact, like, it was a year and a half of treatment. I was more than a year in prednisone, which, whoever knows, prednisone is one of those pills that can transform you physically.
Yeah.
I went through that transformation too. But fast forward to a year and a half later, and I remember walking into her office, and she had the results in her hands, and she's like, it's unbelievable. It's not even in her bloodstream. Like, there's no way, just by looking at her bloodstream, that I can say that this girl that is sitting here had this autoimmune disorder.
Wow.
And she, I remember her telling my parents, do you remember what she said when she walked in here? I guess she did it. She healed. Like, the healing happened. It's not in her body. And I think for me, that was the event that marked that whatever I set my mind into, I could actually accomplish it. But it wasn't until now that I realized it. Like, I remember that event shaped everything in my life after, but it wasn't until now that I can see, oh, that's why I like this is how I always behaved, and this is how I always overcome my own challenges. As a result of that, because of the prednisone, I went from being someone who was very thin to, in a week or 2 weeks, actually in a month, people couldn't recognize me because I was completely. I was taking a dose of 60 mg, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Normally they would start you with like 10 milligrams or something like that, and then hamper you down. I was in 60 mg for more than 6 months. So I got completely transformed, and people didn't recognize me. And that generated other trauma in my life. Like, I started to have issues with the way I saw myself, etc., etc. And later on in life, it translated to an eating disorder, and then some depression, right? I started to have depression very early on, until it developed into full-blown depression when I was in my low 20s. But yeah, everything shaped until that moment. I would say everything after that, I feel that me overcoming that event is like that key that I have the power. I'm the one in control.
I love
Everything
it.
else facilitates the process, but I'm the one in control.
I love it so much, Brendaliz. So many different angles of that story are so cool. It's so cool that you, as such a young child who is facing this huge disruption, it's not like you were born with something, and had, and we're able to get used to it. But, like when you're a kiddo and you all of a sudden have something big happen to you like that, it's a big disruption, right? And your brain isn't even, you haven't built up a history of dealing with disruptions or challenges, so I just love it that you had the wherewithal to be like, no, I'm gonna kick this in the ass. And then and to get that lesson so early in life, not that it can, the law of attraction, right? Like, so what I am going to put out is what's going to come back. And that all starts with my mind, right? Like, and I've been trying to explain that concept to my kiddos for many years. And it's just something that we, believe to be true. And I've coined a little phrase that I maybe I've shared on BOYBAS before, but maybe I haven't, but I call it mind bullets. So I will tell the kids, is like, use your mind bullets. You can, in your mind, you can do a lot, it's
I love
so
that.
powerful. So yeah.
But what it's funny is now looking back, like people ask me, but how did you do it? How did it happen? And I think one of the things is when you're a kid, it's easy to manifest because either way, we're always manifesting 100% of our life, right? But when you're a kid specifically, I think I was so focused on the relief I was getting and that feeling good. Like that first time I could actually move my arms, like I could sit on the floor and finally stand up by myself. Those were big victories. And I think the emotion that I was compiling and the hope I had, I could envision myself walking finally normally. I could envision myself doing things that normal kids would do that I had not done for years. And I think that hope and that knowing that that could happen gave me that like energy. How do we say it? It's like that energy pool that I needed to keep me going. And so as adults, we second guess ourselves. We question everything. As a kid, I wasn't questioning it. I was just there present, like envisioning, because in manifestation, a big part of manifestation is being able to be in that emotion and that energy of whatever it is that you want. And I was really good at doing that at that age. I could see it, I could feel it, I could envision it. And I think that's the bigger difference between now a kid and an adult, that an adult goes on the parallels of rethinking so much things.
Yeah, as like I pulled up Lori's comment here because it's so true. As a kid, you don't have the limiting thoughts, you haven't built up this inner critical voice that is doubting everything, right, along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I was taking it off. No, he has control now, and so I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't do that yet. So it's so funny. So I'm curious. Did your parents tell you and manage the expectations the way the doctor said, or did they allow you to believe what you thought? Because I think sometimes that can really play into things.
Right.
I think I'm trying to remember. I think there was a combination of both. I think they tried to manage the expectations in the way they could. Like they would say things like, things are gonna get better. You'll see. You're gonna be able to start to do things as normal kids. Whatever path it is, we never know. And I have this image in my mind because I remember that day I walked into the doctor's office. There was this girl in the waiting room and she was in a wheelchair. And one of the things when I walked into the office and I said, no, I'm going to heal. And the doctor said, well, but we have to, there's no cases out there that have healed, blah, 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 blah. And I remember asking her, what does that girl in the waiting room has? And the doctor said, she has the same thing you do. So it was kind of like a battle in my mind at that point where, okay, she has the same with that I do and she's in a wheelchair and I'm here but I kept on going. No, I'm going to heal. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to get better. This is going to happen. And even though I saw that girl there, one of the things actually that the doctor then said was her case was diagnosed much later. So the damage was more extended.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it like I could have at that age say, well, that girl is in the wheelchair. That's gonna be me. And I was like, no, that's not gonna be me. I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I have found that in the medical profession, when they say, like, you have cancer and they say you have 6 months to live, people almost live to 6 months because that's what they start to believe.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you, my dad, even though he ended up succumbing to cancer, he went way beyond where they even thought he could, just because he was like, no. Like he decided that he was going, that he was finally done, but he kept beating it like every single time. But it was a type of cancer that just keeps coming back. So it was just going to keep coming back. But I really believe that if there were things that we know now, had we known them then when he was going through this, I think we could have gotten through it. And because he had the mindset of, I'm going to overcome this, and that has really taught me a lot through life. And your story is teaching that as well, that so many times we, like she said, as kids, we don't limit our thoughts as kids. We think it's possible. As adults, we've sort of unlearned that through life, and then we have to relearn it. So it's like half the stuff we learned as kids, we unlearn it because people teach us that's not possible. And then we have to now relearn everything as we get to adulthood, or sometimes people don't relearn these types of things.
I remember sitting down and envisioning, like seeing it, like
Yes.
how I would move my hands. Like I remember, like talking to my sisters and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be going to this with you guys. I'm gonna be able to do this with you guys." And as I'm talking to you guys, it gives me chills because
Yes.
I know I could. That visualization that people talk about.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was doing that as a I don't know, 11 year old at that time. And I think it's powerful. And today I recognize, right, that's what actually helped me go through the turmoils. But I think right now I realize that it hasn't been just there, it's been present most of my life.
Right.
That's great.
I love it.
So now, as you have continued on, you then ended up, let's maybe fast forward a little bit to your journey in the corporate world. So you're in the corporate world. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what you did there, and then what it is that happened? And then we'll transition into more about what you're doing now.
I have a funny story. So I went into graduate school in Iowa, and I had a really major depression and ended up coming back home to Puerto Rico. And as a result of coming back to Puerto Rico, I realized I had graduated from a bachelor's in mathematics. I needed to do something with my life. So I'm like applying everywhere. I don't care. Like I would be the cashier in the store in the corner. Like I just wanted to get out of the house, right? And my first actual job was in a travel agency processing payments for American Express. And I remember a friend of mine told me in the town that I went to college, they're hiring for this company. Just take the resume. This is where when you actually printed resumes and took it to companies, right? Take the resume, leave it in the security guard, and they're hiring. I'm like, okay. Once again, no expectations. Went there, dropped my resume. Within days, they called me, and I took a test. I passed the test. They called me for an interview. And at the end of the day, I don't even remember having ever the discussion of what I was going to work for that company, what I was going to do, what my role was going to be. I never had that discussion. And I remember them saying, okay, you're hired. This is what you're going to earn, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, like, Who am I reporting to? Oh, you're going to come the first day. You're going to come through the security guard. You're going to report to X person, blah, 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 blah. And I remember that day asking people, well, what's my job? I didn't even know my title of job, what I was going to do, anything like that. I just went there. And that was like basically me beginning in the corporate world. And that's
What a leap of faith.
that set the stage for everything else, because after that it's like opportunities arise and I was never actively looking for them. They just happen. Oh, Brenda, go here, or talk to this person, or you might be interested in this role, blah 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 blah. And that's how I would say probably 75% of my corporate career went, right? But and I was very fast paced. I was growing very fast. I would probably be in a role for 2 years and then move to the next one, always increasing responsibility until 2016. In 2016, I was traveling for work, and I had, without going into much details, I basically didn't duck my head enough getting into a taxi cab, and my head went directly with the border of the car, and I basically compressed my head to my spine, and I ended up having, a couple of days later, an emergency cervical fusion. And that's the event that basically sent me on the spiral. Why? What have I been doing for the last years? Because if you remember, I never kind of directed my career. It all happened one thing after the other. And I started to question, why am I even here? What is my purpose? What am I meant to do? And I started to question, how am I sacrificing my family right now? Is this what I really want? I was working on average between 50 to 60 or 70 hours a week. Easy. And because I was always that go-getter. But that event was the one who said, okay, no, this is not your path. There's more to you. We've been sending you breadcrumbs. You haven't paid attention. Now it's time for you to take action.
Right.
Yeah.
Funny enough, humans, like in every other human, we pay attention. Sometimes we don't pay attention all the time. From 2016 to 2022, I knew I wanted more. I started to explore learning more about neuroscience, the power of the mind. And that's when I started to realize, all these things that happened in my youth, now I understand why they happen and the control I had over them, right? But I didn't pay attention because I was filled with fears. I was filled with shame. I was comfortable. I had the safety of a job and all of that, but I was miserable. I didn't like the environment anymore. I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't feel I was having an impact to people's life, and that made me very self-aware. That it was misery for me until 2022, when breadcrumbs are here. You don't take advantage of the breadcrumbs. Now we're going to send you a big loud scream so you can kind of realize that this is your time and this is what you need to do, and you need to do things big. And that's when I lost my job in June of 2022. And I remember when that happened, the first thing I thought is, this is my time. I'm going to reinvent myself. But in order to reinvent myself, I'll take a couple of months, but I'll go back to corporate, because once again, it's safety, security, and all of that. But in the meantime, while I'm finding a job, I'm going to be preparing myself. And when I go back to corporate, I'm going to get ready my business, and eventually I'll quit corporate and I'll be full-blown entrepreneur. But it didn't feel right.
It's really hard, right?
It's hard. And it felt, because at that point, I already knew deep down in my core, deep down in my soul, I had connected with my soul that wasn't my path. And now it felt I wasn't being authentic. It felt I was being insincere. It felt I wasn't being honest with myself. And I crumbled. Like, I literally crumbled, because everything I had not dealt with through my years in corporate, and then the grieving of losing my job, because whoever tells me that losing the job is not that hard, I'll tell you, after 24 years, 23 to 24 years in a corporate world, yes, losing your job you have to grieve it. It's like losing a relationship. It's like losing a partner or losing someone in your life, because that's where you spend most of the time in your life, right?
Yeah.
And I hit rock bottom. I think it was October of 2022 when my husband said, "Okay, hold on. You're not sleeping. You're not eating well.
Mm.
You're not like, I see you in misery. You can't concentrate. We can have conversations with you. You're extremely reactive. What's going on?" And he said, "I don't care what you do in your life. What we need to, as a family, talk. How
Mm.
can we help you?" And I
Yeah.
remember, and this is a feeling that I can connect to when I was little, I remember that surrender at that time. That
Oh,
I can't have control over this. I don't know what to do. And
Mm.
that crumbling and saying, "Oh F,"
Mm.
like, I don't know what I want. I don't know how to do it. I don't
Mhm.
know what I need from you. Like, I don't. And I remember crying so much that day and literally saying to God, "God, just guide me. I don't care. Just guide me. I don't know. I don't want to have control anymore. Like, just guide me." And
Yeah.
I feel that that moment was a turning point, because that moment opened the door for me to tell the universe, "I'm open. I'm ready."
Mhm.
And now the universe and God and source, whoever you believe on, now the universe basically starts to give me more crumbles and guide me through the path. And I started to talk to people. All of a sudden, people who I haven't talked in a long time appear. And all of them had insights that would actually help me overcome what I was going through. And that was a Friday when we had that conversation. Sunday, I found a course that felt that, oh my God, this is what I need to learn. These people, these techniques are gonna help me. And and I told my husband on Monday, and he's like, "Well, but remember, you lost your job, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'll figure it out." By Tuesday, I had figured out how I was gonna pay for it. By Wednesday, I was on a train to Boston, and on Thursday, I was starting my training. Sunday,
wow.
they tell me, "Well, the second part of the training is in Arizona, and actually, we have a session starting in exactly 1 week." And I'm like, "I'm all in." I just needed to convince my husband, right? Because if he had complained for this little investment, I can imagine what his thoughts are going to be on the bigger investment. Um, and I'm like, "I'm all in. I'm going. This is me. I'm going all in. And whatever this path takes me, this is what it's going to be." I remember going in, taking the training, and going through what I tell people is a breakthrough experience. And after I did that breakthrough experience, 6 weeks after, I was launching my business.
Wow.
Six,
Mhm.
6 weeks after. And I know I said long story short, but yeah, sorry, I kept on going.
No,
No.
it was all amazing. And so I do want to ask a question of the audience. And so I'm curious how many people are maybe tired of the corporate world and they are considering stepping out. And so my question for the audience is, what would it take for you to decide to go out on your own? And so in Brendaliz, in your situation, it was the universe going, "Hey, you're not listening to me. I'm going to kick
Boom.
you out. So I'm going to, we're going to have you fired or, whatever it is, let go." And so sometimes that is the kick we need to say, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And so a lot of times this is one of the key things that I found is when we face an obstacle. That obstacle is trying to tell us this path you're taking is not really the right path. So maybe you're needing to divert it a little bit, or maybe you're needing to do a complete,
Right.
U-turn. So it's figuring out maybe it's like a little bit of a different path that you're supposed to be taking, or you're supposed to do something completely different. So for you, it was something completely different. And I know that for our audience, one of the things that we had talked about earlier on is that you want to also talk a little bit about breaking free of the baggage. So what is it from a mindset perspective that people need to think about if they're thinking about going from that corporate world to entrepreneurship or finding what it is that they're passionate about? What are the things that you would guide them to help them with that need or desire?
So for me, I think if you remember when I said I went from not knowing what I wanted, be in full depression, confusion, not sleeping well, to all of a sudden 6 weeks after launching my business. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had not let go of all the emotional and mental baggage that I had been carrying. And
Yeah.
a big portion of it is I learned through the process that 95% of the actions we take, they're unconsciously.
Yeah.
And even though we may think, oh, I think this is exactly what triggers me to feel unworthy. In reality, what triggers you to feel unworthy might be the most stupid things that happen to you at the most stupid time in your life, but you don't recall it. And that's why it's unconscious, right? So for me, I going back to your question, it's about being able to tap into those unsolved situations that we've been carrying. I describe it as a 300-pound gorilla. It's like literally you carry a 300-pound gorilla on your back and you're like going like this and you don't realize it because at the end of the day, you can't see the gorilla. You're just seeing the effects of the weight in your back, right? And in order for I feel, and this is why I'm so passionate about helping people go do that step of that jump of going from corporate to entrepreneurship, you really have to do a reset. And I'm not talking about a reset just in mindset, it's a reset in all your four bodies, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and the physical. Because if you try to come back from corporate into entrepreneurship with all the fears, with the mindset that, oh, I'm going to get my paycheck on the 15 and the 30, with the mindset that whatever you like, I need to work long hours in order to be successful. Like all those patterns that we have acquired, either passed down to us from generations, or that we've acquired in this lifetime, that shape the actions that we take. So for me, and long story short, it's really about letting go of that baggage, emotional and mental, that it's not allowing you, and it's going to stop you from taking the actions that you need in order to have a successful entrepreneur business.
Yeah.
So I love that too. And I'm curious, in your coaching and consulting with your clients, do you have tools that you use to help them get rid of that baggage? Because I know for a lot of people, it can be very freeing. It can be a little easier, but for a lot of other people, it's really hard, right? We've built up habits around that baggage. It's hard work to just say, you can say, wow, I've let this go. I've really let this go. But then, a little while later, some of it kind of creeps back, right? So I'm curious as to, and you don't have to.
No, it's okay. I do. I take people through a breakthrough. It's an intensive where we work very closely for 2 days and we go deep and we basically blow out all of those misconceptions or all of those beliefs.
Wow.
And then after that is when the work begins in terms of adding new habits, creating new strategies, and then creating your path. But I begin always with that reset, which it is an intensive, but it is what opens you to be able to have the clarity that you need to in order, and the courage to be able to step into the journey. I use a combination of methodologies. I use specifically what I do, the breakthrough is through the methodology of mental and emotional release, which is considered kind of like alternative therapy. And basically, I use a combination of NLP techniques, timeline therapy, hypnosis, forgiveness techniques, among other things, energy work, among other things, to help the person really, really not push away, dissolve those problems. Because it's not about pushing away, it's about dissolving those problems and begin to create new beliefs and new habits and new behaviors.
Mm.
Yeah, you see the beauty and the challenges, those problems, like, what they actually gave you for in terms of opportunity, or why they needed to happen in some way.
I can talk about my own personal experience when I did my breakthrough in 2022 for the first time. Funny enough, a lot of what was holding me from taking the steps and the actions went back to my medical condition or my disease when I was 10 and 11, right? And it even went even further because I was the second out of 4 kids. And I could pinpoint it to moments in my childhood where I felt so alone, to the point where and to this day, I do believe that the reason why my autoimmune disorder kind of came into the surface was because it was a way for me to bring unconsciously, I didn't do it on purpose, unconsciously bring attention from my parents back to me, because I was the second out of 4 and I was ignored for a lot of things, not on purpose. My mom and dad were doing the best they could,
Right.
with the resources that they had, right? And I could actually pinpoint a lot of the things back into that childhood trauma that may have happened when I was 2, 3 years old. And at the end of the day, translated to what it was. Healing that, being able to let go of that baggage at the root, which is the key, is what set me free to be able to move into entrepreneurship.
Wonderful.
You know, it is interesting how the mind will help protect us.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand, is that sometimes the things that we go through, especially medically, may actually be your body trying to protect you. Because I found this, I had a seizure for the first time in 2004. And I didn't have another seizure until 9 years later. And, like, I went through the whole, they thought I had a true seizure. I had a grandma seizure. People witnessed me. I knew how it felt, those types of things. Like, I had the symptoms, basically I had a tingling in my stomach. I had deja vu. I had all of these things that I didn't know anything about seizures, but I had all of the signs, and they told me, oh, you had a seizure. But I went through all those things, couldn't drive, all those types of things. But it wasn't until the second time that I was like, you guys can't even tell me why it is I'm having this. And so I ended up, my mother had found an article that apparently people that go through molestation, a lot of times they end up manifesting in their body seizures. And to me, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this is what was happening. So the doctor that I saw, he was like, so you're telling me you want to be crazy? That's what he said to me.
What the
And
hell?
I was like, no, I'm telling you that my body is trying to protect me. And so it's doing this because every single time I had it, I was under so much stress that my body's like, all right, you're not listening to me. I guess I'm going to have to make you believe, take time for yourself. And so it wasn't until I got to a psychologist and a neurologist that she was like, yeah, this makes sense. And so since then, I know that every time for me, whenever I'm dealing with stress, that's why I meet with a depth psychologist, or I met with counselors prior. I knew that whenever I'm in high stress situations, I need someone to be able to talk to release things. That's just how my body is. And so even though I still do things to try to deal with the stress, I know that sometimes I'm not able, I need someone to be able to sort of talk to and go through those things. So I think it's learning your body. And so for you, you learned these things of how it is that you needed to deal with your body. And I think that that's the key, is that your body is trying to protect you. It's trying to tell you that you, one, have the ability and the power to do much more than you even think is possible. And then it's helping you down the path in the things that you're doing. And so I think that it's amazing that when people finally realize that your unconscious is really trying to tell you something, and it's just a matter of trying to listen to it. So I love the story, just because it's really a testament to understanding that you are capable of so much more. And also, the reason you go through things is to try to set you up and prepare you for even more your purpose.
Absolutely. 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 I do think that every experience, like my autoimmune disorder, my severe depression, and a couple of different other things, my injury, and then losing my job, it was like everything was building until that moment for me
Yes.
to realize that there was a bigger purpose for me than what I have been made to believe through my lifetime.
Yeah. Some of our some of our audience, when we ask that question, have come back, and it feels like some of them are already kind of on their path, right? They're realizing, Lori here saying that, she's in the middle of transitioning to what she believes is, truly what she's here for. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Lori. And Tanya, the same thing, when stress is building up so much where you feel like it's killing you, you have to figure out what else is out there for you and what you can do for yourself and your family.
And I think that's the first step. The first step is to manage the symptoms, manage the burnout.
Yeah.
And then once you manage that burnout, then you go to the root cause of that burnout, right? And then you start to dig deeper. You start to let go of the baggage. You start to get the clarity that you need in order for you to be able to step into your purpose, right? And then you have to envision what it is that you really desire, what it is that you really want, and you have to take the actions towards that. But most people don't get to that point because the baggage, the burdens, their stories that they tell themselves constantly are sending them on a completely different path than what they truly desire. And that's where experiencing a breakthrough, it's really key, because it helps you accelerate that process. Number one, you're not bypassing anything. You're gonna still be in touch, because a lot of people say, well, is that spiritual bypass because it's so quick? No, it's not spiritual bypass, because you're still gonna get in touch with all your emotions, and everything that you need to deal with will come to the surface. There's two prime directives of the unconscious mind that resonate a lot with me. And one is what Sarah said earlier, which is the unconscious mind is here to protect you. So the unconscious mind on purpose may hold certain thoughts, certain experiences until you're ready to actually be able to, handle them, right? But the top priority is to protect you. And then there's another, there's like 20 different directives that we studied in neuro-linguistic programming. There's another one, which is the unconscious mind has the capability of tapping into the perfect health blueprint through the connection with your higher self, connection to source, right? And it's about us being able to letting the unconscious mind open up and have that connection with the higher self, with source, and be able to tap into that perfect health blueprint. That's why so many people have healed. And there's so many miracles in this world, and people question, and science can't justify any of it because of that, because it's possible, because we have the capability within ourselves just through the connection directly that we all have with source.
So I'm going to go back real quick. An interesting question, because I think it might play into this. So what branch of mathematics did you study? Bruce wants to know.
Yeah, your brilliance seeps out of you.
I studied applied, I think it was applied mathematics. I never really practiced it, funny enough, but my
Okay.
thinking is very in alignment with the skills of a mathematician. Um, I did wanted to do my graduate in statistics at some point, and that's when I went through my depression and my turmoil, and that stopped, and I went on a very different path. But yeah, like I wanted to go on that path of statistics. I love the logic. I love
Mhm.
making, like, I can connect dots. I can see things where people don't see them.
Yep.
And yeah, that's why I am doing what I'm doing now. Because when I meet with my clients, I can actually, as I listen to them, I'm like, oh, this is where it's going. And I can make connections. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna tell you what the connections are. I'm gonna guide you to where those connections is, because the power is in
Mm.
self-discovery, not in me telling you what the challenge is.
Yeah. It's funny because I was talking with my depth psychologist that I talked to, and one of the things that I was talking to her about in our company, like I can see months ahead. Like I can say, okay, if we're not going to do this, this is what's going to happen. And so she said, well, you do realize that that's your unconscious has learned to protect you because of the things that happened to you when you were early
Absolutely.
on. It learned, oh, I have to be able to see patterns in order to protect yourself. And I was like, it really was like, oh, like that makes a lot of sense. And so sometimes when people go through things, they develop particular types of skills, and it's different. I think it's different for each person. And so it's figuring out like, what is that for you? But I love what you said is that one of the things I've had to learn is that it's not me going, hey guys, I can see all of this in the future. It's one, getting them to trust me in the fact that I can do that. And it's two, getting them to then understand their fears and the challenges that they still haven't dealt with that are keeping them and protecting them from
Absolutely.
not wanting to take action, as an example.
Yeah.
So I'm still going through, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to be learning here in helping them in what it is they're struggling with and whatever it is they learned early on to fear? Because sometimes I'm ready to take action and they're not. They're like, whoa, like this is too much too quick. And so I can't constantly ask myself, okay, well, what's their fear? What is it that they're dealing with? So
It's funny because as a coach, a lot of times people want to come and work with you and they want a structure. Okay, week one, we're going to do this. Week two, we're going to do this. Week three, we're going to do this. And I give them, I've been working on a top level structure, but my first thing that I said to people, it's your journey, it's your way.
right.
Meaning, this is not going to go at the speed that you desire. This is going to go at the speed that you're ready for. So
Mhm.
Right.
if it takes us, with the exception of the breakthrough, which is very structured and it does happen in 2 days, but other than that, like when we're working on your avatar, when we're working on your goal, when we're working on your vision, when we're working on all of that, we are working on it at your speed. If it takes you 1 month to develop your avatar, it will take us 1 month to develop your avatar. Some
Right.
Mhm.
people, it may take them 1 session to develop their avatar. Boom, they do it, they know. But if it, in your case, it doesn't, then it's custom fit to your needs. And I think one of the things biggest mistakes we make as humans is we try to compare ourselves with everybody else, and we try to fit into everybody's else box. But
Right.
there's no one size fits all box. It's our, and I hate boxes anyway. But it's
We
about,
say flip the box, but
exactly. It's about like living your journey, believing in your journey, allowing your journey to take you wherever it needs to take you at whatever time it needs to take you.
Mhm.
Yeah, that person made VP when they were 25. Yeah, and what?
Yeah.
That's their
Mhm.
journey. Your journey is different. Enjoy your
Right.
journey. Focus on your journey.
And I love what Tanya said here, especially at the end. They have to want to make the change, though,
Absolutely.
and
Right.
and that is key. Is when you're dealing with other people, like people that are coming to you, they're ready to make the change. But so many times you're working with people in like a corporate setting or the different things that you're doing, and they're not ready to
Nope.
make the change whatsoever.
Yeah, in fact, sometimes the opposite, right?
Mhm.
Like
They
may-
boycotted. Nope, that's not what we're gonna do. I'm going that. You tell me I'm going here. I'm going that way.
yeah, exactly.
Maria's just getting here. She said, I just got here, but I love you already.
I know. And we are nearing the end of our time here, but we could go on forever and ever. This is amazing. So wonderful to speak with you.
Yeah.
I don't want us to forget about,
Yep.
what gift you want to leave with us today,
Okay, so there's two things I'm offering. So one is I do have a lead, like a freebie, which is basically kind of like a guideline that you can follow during the nights for a nighttime routine that
Mm.
includes like some reflection and journaling and mantra to help you set the stage for the next day. We a lot of times when we go to bed, we go to bed with all the thoughts that we have in our mind, and like we don't sleep properly. The next day we wake up grumpy, etc., etc. By being able to follow this routine, you are able to tap into things that will set your vibration very different during the night. So I can put it in the comments. It's just, you just download it. It's a freebie, and it's a really cool, easy discipline that doesn't take more than, I would say, probably 7 to 10 minutes. And that's it. It's a nighttime routine.
Yeah.
And then the other thing
You can
is,
add that to LinkedIn, then we can add it to Facebook as well as YouTube. So that would be great.
absolutely, absolutely. And then the second thing is, if anybody wants to have a conversation with me, and if they want to see if the work I do and the transformations I deliver is something that you want and desire in your life, that if you're ready to really take your life to the next level and you don't want to wait 6 more months to see the benefits, then set up. I'm offering free 30-minute calls where I could tell you you're going to walk away with a lot of more clarity than what you came in with.
Cool.
And then you're also doing, people can apply and do the breathing circle, correct?
So, through the last couple of months, I've been expanding my capabilities, and I'm using breath as a catalyst to help us also through transformations. And I'm creating this breath circle that I'm going to be launching in March. I have an application process because I want to make sure that the breath circles are going to be no more than 8 people. I want to make sure that I'm putting the right 8 people together. If I need to launch more than one breath circle, I would. But right now, the focus is I want to make sure I'm putting the right people together to create the safe environment that we need. And it's going to be my pilot. I'm going to be testing it out. I'm still battling if it's going to be a 4-week pilot, or if I'm going to go full and do the 3-month pilot. Stay tuned, more to come, and it's going to be really cool, and it's going to be a really amazing experience that's going to blow you up. More details are coming later on, but I'm accepting applications, so I could put also the applications for people to apply.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Like, if we could, how do we follow you? How do we stay tuned to you?
LinkedIn is my place. LinkedIn is where I am, where I spend, I would say, probably 70% of my time. I was really active in Instagram. I'm not so much now, but every now and then I do go there. I'm working on a new strategy that it's probably going to be active in both places. So yeah, I would say Instagram and LinkedIn are my 2 places to be. I would say start there.
Perfect. And I do want to ask the audience a last question. And so this is something that Brendaliz likes to ask people is, what do you do to recharge throughout the day? So I'm just curious with the audience, what you do to recharge. And so we were talking about this, and I was telling Brendaliz, for me, I'm like a go, 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 go person. And sometimes I don't necessarily take the time to recharge. I don't know that I necessarily need anything to recharge, but I need to like stretch, honestly, is the main thing that I need to do and take some time for myself. But I'm really good at meditating in the morning most of the time. And then I definitely meditate at night before I go to bed, and I have an amazing sleep. So I'm really good at sleep because that's when I get all my dreams and my unconscious speaks to me and those types of things. And so, Kate, what do you do to recharge while people are answering this question?
This has been a very much a work in progress. My whole, that I've been trying to get really good at. And I know I've mentioned this before, it's why I tattooed self-love on my hand, because I need those reminders to take care of myself. I'm such a nurturer and provider that I forget about myself. I really focused on others too much sometimes. So I've started recently taking baths in the morning, like starting my day in the bath. I'm doing email in the bath. I'm meditating in the bath. I'm doing so much in the bath and I'm loving it. So that's been awesome. With this procedure, I'm not going to be able to take baths. So that kind of sucks for a while. But and I've been starting to meditate and doing some of these other things. So what I do love about some of the breath work, which I haven't gotten into enough, is that you can do that so easily. And you can also do it while no one knows, so there's some cool things out there that you can do to quietly calm down or regulate yourself. And then the last thing I've been doing a lot of lately is dance. So during the day, I'll, because I listen to music a lot, so I will dance, but then, to like recharge with my family or to transition from go, 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 exit the office. Holy shit, there's 6 kids and so many animals and, and it's hard for me to make that switch. So I need to reset. I need to recharge like almost immediately into a new framework. So I've found that, dancing a little and doing something really fun in that first few moments really helps me recharge.
So I'm going to pull up Maria's comment, and then Brendaliz, I'm going to end with you. So she does silent disco with the stand-up desk. And so, Maria, I can totally see you doing that. And she said, sometimes not so silent. So
same page, Maria. I love that.
I love the idea of music. I think music, if intentional music, it can change your energy and your state of mind almost instantly.
Yep.
But it has to be like, I tell my daughter all the time, like she listens to this music and I'm like, are you really listening to the lyrics? That's the lyrics that are going to your subconscious, because you're singing it without even paying attention to what the lyrics say, but those lyrics impact you. And I'm like, change that music. No, that's not good lyrics. Like we have to be very mindful of the words and the type of information we're absorbing through all of our senses, because it does impact you. What do I do? Okay, I wake up in the mornings. The first thing I do is I go on a rampage of gratitude. Like, thank God for the bed. Thank God for that I woke up. Thank God for this. Thank God for that. Like, I go on a rampage for like 2-3 minutes where I'm just thanking God for anything that comes into my mind. Then after dealing with like the drama and the things I need to deal with in the household, I'll take a shower. And I love doing vowels in the shower. This is crazy. It's basically I do, it's like a chanting thing. It's like a Hawaiian practice where I chant vowels, and I basically then just let the water hit my back and just put my hands on the side, and then as I'm chanting the vowels in a certain way, then I could feel the energy flowing through my whole body. And because I'm connecting with water energy together with my vocals, it's really cool. It like recharges me for the day. And then through the day I take small breaks, like where I could go for walks, I could go ground myself in nature. Like I love grounding myself. I'm in Florida, so the weather is nicer here, so I can walk outside barefoot at any given point in time. But if even in New Jersey, if the temperature was above 35, I would go outside and ground myself still, barefoot. And then this is one thing that I encourage everyone, just program in your phone 1 minute break, where it could be like every 2 hours, every 3 hours, every hour if you wanted to, where it's just 1 minute for intentional breathing, where all you do for 1 minute is basically focus on your in breath and your out breath. You could do box breathing, you could do different techniques, but if you just focus on inhale, exhale, and you tell in your mind 1, 2, 3, 4, in 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, and you do that for a minute. That's intentional breathing. You are resetting your body. So if you're looking for inspiration, if you're looking for, if you're in, you can't, creativity is out the door. If you're stressed, if you're feeling that everything's tensing up, that intentional minute of breathing is going to change your life.
It really does. I love it. I've been doing it.
I do meditate, I journal, I do a lot of other things, but I would say intentional 1 minute breath. That's so powerful.
I love that. I think it's very important, and I don't think people realize how much it can rejuvenate you. So thank you for that.
There's one person that told me that I found very interesting, that there's a strain of thought out there that part of the medical benefits of cannabis is the breathing that comes along with the smoking. Because you breathe in, you hold, you smoke out. I was like, oh my God, that is too funny. I never thought about that, right? But it is.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. It's fascinating point of view. Yeah.
Yes. It was actually Emily Penton who told me that, Sarah. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Too funny. But
so
this was amazing.
It really was. And I feel like there's so many more things that we could have tapped upon, we could have touched upon. And so I love what you're doing. I love this conversation. There's so many other things that I think we could continue to explore. But I do think that, maybe at a later date, we have you come back in and see how the women's circle is, the breathing circle is doing and things like that, because
Absolutely.
I would love to hear maybe even from people that are going through it and how they found breath work helped, or the things that you're working with them, how it is that it helped them. So
and the breath work I'm going to be doing, it's called transformational breath work, which is conscious connected breathing, which allows you to kind of pause your overthinking mind, which is actually really cool. So I'll be more than happy to come back and share the experience with you guys.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, and Maria said, I had a therapist tell me that about quitting smoking cigarettes, do breath work, he said, instead. So
interesting. So interesting.
Yeah.
Hypnosis is actually really good for quitting smoking.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense.
Well, Brendaliz, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for the interaction from everyone today and for joining us. And I hope that everyone has an amazing weekend and also has a great Monday that's coming. And Kate, would you like to finish us off today?
Yeah. I hope this whole conversation kind of was able to fuel your Friday. I know that I feel so inspired. Brendaliz has this, she oozes this brilliance with this energy, that you bring to everything you say, every word that comes out. Really appreciate it. I found it inspiring, and I'm sure that our audience has as well. Stephanie just posted that this was incredible, and we're all just so thankful that you were here today to share your energy.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everybody. Thank you both for having me here. I'm blessed to be here. And I'm a true believer that we need to share more our stories, because that's what you never know who's listening and needs that nudge to be able to move forward. So, yeah.
I love that. Thank you. And thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Woo, so excited.